Your Book. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
And welcome to the party, pals.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Ho. Ho. All right. You probably saw the title of what you clicked on, but if not,
I hope so.
You might have recognized it from our wonderful impersonations there.
Mm-hmm.
It's finally Die Hard. We did do 1988 this year, guys. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We did A Fish Called Wanda, and we did, what'd you guys pick?
Oh, man, what did I pick? Something great.
We didn't do Coming to America or Beetlejuice.
I don't remember.
So what was there? That's crazy.
There's a lot of great stuff.
Well, anyway, we didn't pick Die Hard because...
Did I do Naked? Was that Naked Gun?
Yes, the Naked Gun was your pick.
That was Naked Gun, yes.
And we figured, well, let's save Die Hard for around Christmas time because we'll discuss later on if this is a Christmas movie, and maybe you can already kind of guess where we're headed if we put it in this month. But I don't know, maybe one person in the panel will disagree. So who knows? So we love this movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, period. No discussion. If you disagree, you're wrong. So who wants to share your memories of when you saw or got to know Die Hard first?
I can go first on this one. I don't recall the exact first time that I watched it, but I remember just watching it. It was on TV all the time, and I know that we had rented it on the VCR tape a few times. But my biggest memory of watching this movie on TV was that back in the day, it's better now that we have white, they cut the edges like they always used to for a square screen. And so anytime you watched it, they would like they were squished, right?
The movie always looks
so they
smushed.
had these long faces. Yeah. And for whatever reason, this is the only movie that ever really happened to that I can remember. But it was something that we always had to comment on every time that we watched it.
I think it happened in some others, but this is the one that you remember and you probably because we watched it more often, but
it was the most popular.
It was a real thing.
That happened to.
Everything seemed weird.
Right. The aspect ratio was not corrected or something like that. However you want to put it. But when I was growing up, I didn't think of it actually as specifically a Christmas movie. It was just one that I would watch whenever. But now it is a tradition for us. I'm not going to go too much into the detail because it's a question later on, but it is a tradition that we do try to watch it on Christmas or around Christmas. So very excited to watch it this weekend.
A tradition unlike any other.
That's right.
Like the Masters. Hey, Giff, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't remember the first time I watched this either. The second Die Hard I've watched a million times. It was one
you
that I
brought that
got
up
from my
once
uncle.
on a different episode.
Off of HBO, he'd send us recordings. So the second one I've seen a ton. The first one, I honestly don't remember if it was, on TV the first time or if it was on the old VCR tape. But I just remember when this came out, that it was, to me, it seemed a strange choice to have Bruce Willis as an action star. So this was his first foray into that.
Well, I'm assuming you probably did some research or not. I mean, he was the last choice.
Mm-hmm.
They went through everybody in Hollywood before he finally got this role.
Right. So it seemed weird because, I wasn't a huge fan of Moonlighting, but of course I, saw it on TV and it just seemed like an odd choice to have him in there, but obviously he pulled it off masterfully and, the rest is history as far as him and action movies. So, not a big memory from the first time I saw it. Go ahead, Brett.
And John McClane is, you talk about making a character your own for a guy that they weren't even really looking for and you didn't expect it. And they thought it was going to be a big flop and it wasn't going to work because he was this TV guy. And how many guys have made a character synonymous that well with themselves? It's like Chevy Chase and Clark Griswold almost. He's perfect for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to make a point, Brad, before you jump in. That's a really. I'm glad you brought that up because I do remember Bruce Willis from Moonlighting, and I think it was it before or after Die Hard that he came out with a little music career. He had that song Under the Boardwalk also.
Probably might have
which
been
was what it
around the
was.
same time. It was late 80s for sure.
Yeah. But I do remember my dad. I think I probably mentioned this on this show. My dad, for whatever reason, could not stand Bruce Willis, and he refused to watch Die Hard because of it. And so I don't know. I never really got to the bottom of why he hated him so much. But it was like, I hate that guy. And my dad didn't say that about very many people.
Your dad's not much of a negative guy.
No, he definitely wasn't. But for whatever reason, Bruce Willis just bothered him. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So go ahead, Brad.
All right. So I do remember the first time I watched this. So we've talked about a lot of 80s movies, and like we did the Second Chance month, and we did the sequels draft with the Shirley Can't Be Serious guys. Like, and I knew you guys were going to have all these like Predator and Commando and Rambo, and I didn't watch any action movies in the 80s. All I watched as a kid growing up was the comedies. And this movie like literally changed my life, like as the way that I view movies and what I was into. So my brother was in college, and I remember him bringing it home on a VHS he rented it. We were still living on our farm, so it was like 1989. And I was excited to watch it because I always trusted him, and I was ready to watch something like new. I really didn't know what to expect, and I was just blown away. I was on the edge of my seat. It was nonstop entertainment. I remember like the next day still thinking about it and running around. I'm a kid with like guns, like acting like I'm John McClane.
Crawling through your ventilators.
Yeah, so I mean, it was awesome from the first time I saw it. And I think maybe part of it is because I really didn't watch action movies until this, and this movie was like, hey, there's some good ones here too. For some reason, I think I kind of thought they were all just dumb, and I had no idea. So I have a distinct memory of it, and I've watched it many times. I will say, before we get to the end of the show and about the Christmas part, this was never a Christmas movie to me, and it wasn't I never thought of it that way, but I think a lot of it's because I was a kid when I saw it. I guess I don't even know why, but I just didn't associate it with Christmas during those years. But at that same time, there weren't a lot of Christmas movies that you watched every year, because Christmas Vacation didn't even come out till 1989. And most of the movies that I watched every year all came after that, pretty much. So
yeah, so TV
really,
specials.
It wasn't like I had. Yeah, it was the TV specials. It wasn't like I had a Christmas movie rotation. That's something I think we all kind of started to develop in the 90s and in the last 20 years. So I think that's part of why. Not that I didn't think it was Christmas, but it just wasn't. That just wasn't a thing at the time back then. So, right. And then when I got older and remembered it was Christmas Eve and watched it again, I'm like, holy shit, this is great. And we watch it every year. Or at least I do, for sure. My kids are watching it with me every year too, usually. So that's always fun.
Yep.
Okay, so I do want to say before we're going to do this a little different tonight, but I love the beginning of this movie. I love when he gets to the airport and the music, and there's kind of light bells in the background, but it's the ominous music. And I love the way the title comes from the die on the left and the hard on the right, and it comes together and just boing. I just think that is so cool. That's not really the right sound effect. But I think that's
hard on the right and boing.
And it just, when I saw it the other night again, it was like, God, that's great. And it just sets me up for awesomeness from there on. So that's one of the first things I noticed. But before we get into our 12 days of Die Hard, anything else you want to add about something specific you love about it?
It is that we're going to talk about. There definitely are scenes that are a bit far-fetched, shall we say.
Outlandish.
That do just kind of make you laugh. Outlandish. That do just kind of make you laugh too at some of the stupid lines that they make. But it doesn't take away from the movie itself. It's still a great movie. But there are points where you just kind of roll your eyes or you laugh at it.
Well, and one thing I think that sets this movie apart from a lot of the other action movies of the 80s is that the character of John seems more accessible. He's not this big muscle-bound guy like you see with Schwarzenegger
That's true.
and Stallone and the muscles from Brussels. He isn't confident in himself. One of the things I love about him is that he talks to himself all the time, and he's not always.
That's probably why I love him.
Right. He doesn't necessarily always know what to do. He's obviously, we see his faults with, he's separated from Holly. He's not this, just larger than life figure. He seems like more of a, everyman. And I think that's, one of the big attractions for this movie.
And that's a great point, because when I mentioned all these other 80s, you got Stallone and Schwarzenegger. I mean, these are larger than life type of guys. And so he was definitely, and those are some of the guys they wanted to play this role.
Correct.
And I think it worked out great that they got, like you said, he is more of an everyman. He's a tough guy and he's a cop, but he still, looks kind of more like the rest of us and acts like the rest of us.
Right.
So that's a great point.
So the other thing I would like to point out is the movie that I like more than this one is Lethal Weapon. So that came out a year before, nice buddy cop, action comedy. And there's a lot of the same people in that movie that were in this movie. So we have one of the terrorists played by, what's his name? Al Leong. He's the electroshock guy from Lethal Weapon.
The Asian terrorist with the goatee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got him in there. Also, the FBI agent, he's listed as Little Johnson. Grandel Bush, he's also one of the cops in Lethal Weapon, as well as the female anchor, news anchor.
Oh, really?
In this was the psychiatrist, the police psychiatrist in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, that's a lot of overlap.
Yes, and then there's we'll get into it a little bit later, but I feel like there's a part in this movie that they also borrowed from Lethal Weapon. So few comparisons.
So since you brought that up, we could throw a plug into the podcast I already mentioned, Surely You Can't Be Serious, because they like to compare movies, and they did a Die Hard versus Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
It's back in the archives of ways, but if you go find it, it was a great listen.
Oh, it's outstanding.
And clearly you would agree with that. So
yes.
All right. Well, so tonight what we're going to do, the 12 Days of Christmas, we're going to go through this movie, and instead of just sitting and rambling about things back and forth, we're going to break it into the 12 Days of Die Hard, or the 12 Questions of Die Hard. What do you want to call it?
I like that.
And we've got some questions that we all answered, and we're going to share those, and that's going to take us through. We figure most people listening to this probably have seen the movie, and so you don't need a big synopsis and to go through every detail about it. And if you haven't seen the movie, well, go watch it. So,
terrorists take over a building. The cops there. He messes it all up. The end, happy ending. It's awesome.
A lot of big explosions and Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here you go. New York cop gets stuck in an L.A. building with his estranged wife. Terrorist comes in, and he single-handedly saves the day from all these. And they're really not terrorists, but
no,
they are not in your traditional sense of what you would think
80s
terrorists would be.
Sure.
Okay, so the first
question
of Die Hard is, and this is a big one right off the bat, what is the best quote by John McClane in this movie? Which there are many to choose from, and he's just filled with great catchphrases and quotes. So if you had to pick, Pete, what's your favorite?
For me, and we kind of brought up how he's always talking to himself, and I thought this one just kind of summarized like where he's at and what he's feeling. When he says, "Come out to the coast," they said, "We'll get together, we'll have a few laughs."
That's a great one.
This is when he's in that vent, right? And so that line, along with a couple of others that are iconic, but you guys might have picked those, but that one is one that made me laugh. There's another line that he has that made me laugh. But you have that covered in a different category that we'll talk about.
Okay.
That I'm going to bring up later.
I have that quote as one of my choices, and it's the delivery of it that's just so great. It's the timing and the way he says it is wonderful.
Yeah.
Giff, what's your choice?
My choice, you already said at the beginning of the podcast tonight.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Oh, I just love how it's so snide, and obviously it's a party. This is he's going through hell in this whole deal, trying to get somebody's attention, so he's not alone in this fight. And I love that line. I think obviously there's a more iconic line, that carries through the series, but this for me is the line from John.
So I have 6 lines written down, and the 2 that I had in bold are "Welcome to the party, pal," and I couldn't resist. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! It's so great, and when Hans says it, and it's just used at just the right times. It's just undeniable. What a great line, and you got to have your catchphrase in a movie like this, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So I do have 4 more. You want to throw out any others?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll do mine quick. I love when he's calling on the phone the first time to the lady about the emergency, like the fire alarm. And, no fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Yes, you stole mine. I
gave you a chance
mine later.
So good.
Well, no, because I have it written down for a later point another category.
I see.
Yeah.
I love around the time of the Welcome to the Party, pal, when he first sees Al come in and he's like, "Who's driving his car? Stevie Wonder?"
Right. Yes.
And then my other favorite was towards the end when Hans gets the gun up there and he says, "What do you think? I'm fucking stupid, Hans?" That's a great one too.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a lot of great ones.
Any other John McClane lines you guys want to throw in before we move on?
I liked when Hans was talking to him at the end, and I think this is where he's got a gun to Holly's head, and he says, this time John Wayne doesn't get to walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly. And his response is, his
Gary
wife
Cooper
is sitting there with a gun to her head, and he's still cracking wise. That was Gary Cooper, asshole.
He's so confident.
He is.
The only other one that of course, Brad, based on the party that you had last year, this is a big one. It's not a spoken line, but it's a written line that John wrote. And it's "Now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho."
Right. Well, it is spoken by Hans, but not by John. So it wouldn't fit his category.
Yeah. Right. You're right.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts as well. Okay, so John has a bunch of great lines, but he's not the only one. So our second question of Die Hard is, what is the best quote in the movie said by another character? So you could pick Hans Gruber with "ho, ho, ho" here. Gifford, you go first this time.
Hans, Bobby.
I'm your white knight.
Ellis is he's such a despicable character, Bobby. But he's so confident in himself. And I mean, so we've got a situation. These guys are firing bullets in the air like crazy. They're holding these people. And this guy just torqued up on coke is just so overly confident in himself. It oozes douchebaggery so well.
Bobby.
All right. On that, I had a different line by Harry Ellis where he goes, "Hey, babe, I negotiate $1 million deals for breakfast. Think I can handle this Euro trash."
Euro trash. Okay. I did have Hans Bobby. That's my first one. But the one I have in bold is one I just love. And it's when, I don't even know the name of the guy that's after him, but he's on the table and John's under it. "You'll die now. No more table." I love that line. I just love to say that line. I love the way he says it. And then I love what happens afterwards too.
Yeah. One of the other ones that I love is from Dwayne Robinson. He's
Dwayne T. Robinson.
Yes. It's when Hans gets dropped at the end and he's standing there watching him fall and he goes, "Oh, I hope that's not one of the hostages."
Yeah, that was another one I had written down. I hope that wasn't a hostage.
Holly has a good line when she goes to talk to Hans from behind and he says, "What idiot put you in charge?" And she said, "You did." That's a good one.
Right.
And then I have, I'm totally drawing a blank. I have Want a Breath Mint written down. When is that from? It made a big enough impact on me to write it down. I
don't
can't
remember
even
that
think
one.
of when that is.
Oh.
It was funny. It was a funny
Yeah.
line. It was good timing. Oh, it's Al. He says it out. When
Yes.
the FBI guys are coming in and Dwayne T. Robinson looks like he's all excited to go talk to him. Want a
Yeah.
breath mint?
Mhm.
That was a good one too. So I got Al
Yes.
and I got Holly, Ellis, and one of the other terrorists.
I got one more. So right when the police are going to do their first breach, and you got the SWAT leader standing next to Robinson, and SWAT leader's like, "Okay, we're ready," and Robinson goes, "Kick ass."
Kick it, yeah. And we already know it's going to go down in flames, and everybody's telling him, and yet he acts like that's the most douchebag line in the movie, probably.
I got a
any
couple
more?
by Hans Gruber. By the way, delivered perfectly by Alan Rickman, as he always does, and it's not even so much the line itself; it's just how he delivers it, just like you just said with the ho 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 part.
Yeah.
I could talk about industrialization and men's fashion all day, but I'm afraid work must intrude.
I'm glad you wrote that one down, because I was going to write that down and I kind of forgot it, and I didn't want to rewind and get it exact. So that was a great one.
Yeah, it was something like that anyway. And
because he notices
like how
Takagi's suit.
Yeah, and he handles it like it's a business transaction, where on one side he's like kind of courteous to the people he's got to do business with, but at the same time he's like doing all this terrorism and everything. And the other one, I am going to count to 3. There will not be a 4.
Yeah, that's funny. We really, until you'd said it, we didn't really have many Hans lines, and he's got great lines throughout the movie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Actually, my favorite, it's not a line, but when he comes, he's all mad and he comes out of the office and he shoots his gun up in the air and it looks like Saturday Night Fever. That's one of my favorite Hans movies. He's got one arm up and the other one's down. Okay, the next question of Die Hard. Number 3 is, so I tried to break this up so we didn't all have the same and have 2 different things here. So I factored there's kind of 4 main characters: John, Holly, Hans, and Al. That's how I did that, if you guys were wondering. So who among those 4 main characters, who is your favorite character? And it's my turn to go first, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
So I picked Al. I went back and forth. I love him. I love them all. I mean, Hans is so likable as a terrible guy, and John, you can't go wrong with John. But Al, his arc is just so great, from the guy with the ho-hos, and he's been put on death patrol, and he shot a kid and he can't do it, all the way to that end scene where he takes out Carl. And plus, he's just a good guy doing the right thing when nobody seems to have any sense, and he stands up to these assholes. That's what I love. Like the line, like "Want a breath mint." Like, he doesn't back down. He doesn't do anything to get himself fired or anything, but he stands up and he's got sense when nobody else does. I love him.
He's the one that I had Al too. He develops that camaraderie between with him and John, and he's the only one that's on John's side through all of this. And they develop this friendship, and then you totally forget these 2 guys don't even know each other until they see each other for the first time at the very end, and then they like have to mentally put it together, like, oh, this is Al. And so yeah, I loved his character as well.
Giff.
I'm boring. I'm going with John.
Okay.
And
you can't go wrong with John.
It's
nothing wrong with that.
It's for the reasons I mentioned earlier. He talks to himself. He's not this, bulging, larger than life character. He's accessible. He's doing everything he can to try to, fix the situation. And I just think he's awesome. My 1A is Hans.
Yeah.
I love his menacing sophistication. He's just, he's the mastermind behind all of this. He does, you think about it, in this movie, he's the only terrorist in this group. I shouldn't say the only. No, that's not true. But he kills 2 of the hostages. he kills Takagi and he kills
Ellis.
Ellis. You know, otherwise, I mean, except for the 2 security guards in the beginning, you know, those are the only people of the hostages who die, and he kills them. But he doesn't.
He's not there to kill people either.
Right.
That's not what his purpose is.
He's not
It's
overly
there for business.
He's not overly vicious. I love the exchange between him and Holly when Holly, you know, comes in to ask for some concessions for the pregnant woman and go to the
and
bathroom.
He really listens to her too.
He listens to her, you know, and he's, you know, has, you know, some humanity to him, or so it seems, at least in that.
Yeah, well, kind of.
You know, so
Nobody's
those
picking
are my
Holly, huh?
favorite. Holly was great. I mean, I love.
I mean, you're not going to pick her. She doesn't. I mean, she is great, but like she doesn't have enough of a role for being your favorite. I don't.
Right.
But she does a great job of carrying the character of the 80s corporate woman, you know, which is at this point kind of still a new thing. I mean, it's the end of the 80s, but, you know, I mean, she carries that mantle well.
And she's not afraid to stand up like Al either. Like she's brave. She kind of, you can see how her and John, maybe that's why they butt heads so often.
Right.
Okay, so this next category, then I thought there'd be a lot of choices, but as I was watching, I'm like, this is kind of hard for me. So after those top 4, who is your favorite character of all the other side characters? So Pete, back to you.
I had Argyle, the limo driver, because he's
the other
that's
guy. Probably the obvious choice. Yeah, he's great. So.
Yeah, because he's the other guy, other than Al, he's the other guy that earns John's trust. Mm-hmm. And it's a little shaky at first. He's a little bit intimidated by him because he's a limo driver. John doesn't know how to ride in a limo, or he's not comfortable sitting in the back. He sits in the front seat with him when he has it. And then they develop, it's not for very long, but that first 5 minutes or whatever of the movie, he develops this little relationship with him. And then as he's walking away, he says, "You're all right, Argyle," or something like that. And I just thought that was a little cool scene. And then, of course,
okay, LaRusso.
He's sitting in the limo the whole time. Yeah, he's in a limo the whole time and like figuring out what's going on and trying to do what he can to help.
And he gets his hero arc at the end too, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Giff.
It's
Argyle?
No, Paul Gleason can do no wrong in my mind.
Oh my God.
Well, and it's probably because of Breakfast Club and Johnny Be Good, but I just love him when he's on screen. So if I'm going to pick somebody outside the main 4, you know, Dwayne Robinson is going to be my guy. I just love him. I think he's awesome.
Okay, and it's who you like to watch, I guess, right? It's not who you think is a good person. So.
Oh right, no, yeah, right. Not my favorite. Right. Like, character wise, they're
a good character, right?
Yeah.
Like
he's
Hans also is not
I'm not going on morality.
You can love him as a character.
Yeah. So I had Argyle down right away. I didn't pick him. I thought, you know, he's the only one that's like a really good guy of all the choices. I think. I also added, I love the guy that takes over the front desk because I just think he looks like Huey Lewis and he just doesn't fit in. So I love that guy for being Huey Lewis.
Yes.
Last year, Pete, when we had our Christmas party, when you came in the door, I had my Huey Lewis and the News Sports record at the front table by the front door to greet people as a little Easter egg for who could understand this is that guy.
All right.
That's Dennis Hayden, who plays Eddie. And I've always thought that. And then I called Courtney into the room.
Kim thought it was Huey Lewis. Like she didn't even know until I told her. She just assumed it was.
I paused the movie. I go, who does that guy look like?
Cameo, just like in Back to the Future.
Courtney's like, that looks like Huey Lewis. I go, exactly. It's not, but he looks like Huey Lewis.
Okay, but I didn't say my answer yet. So my answer is the Asian terrorist. I love that guy. Amongst all these idiots and loudmouths, I love how he eats the Mars and the Nestle Crunch. That's such a great, just little scene out of nowhere. But, you know, this is just a normal guy. He's just doing, I described him as workmanlike. He's not an asshole. He's not there to get revenge. He's not there to kill. He's just doing his job, and he's having some chocolate. And then I love, right before he gets shot, when he opens the door and John shoots him, I love the big eyes he gives, too. It's a great scene when he's so surprised. So I think he really stood out to me, especially as one of the bad guys.
Yeah, and a very unforgettable face and figure. You know, I mean, that hairstyle is definitely a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fifth question of Die Hard is this is one has many choices, and somebody might pick Gifford's previous choice. Who is the most detestable character? And I had a list going here, and I went back and forth, and then I realized there's really one great answer, but there are so many good answers. So I think we're up to Gifford first this time.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going with the guy with the most punchable face in the universe.
Richard Thornburg?
Yes, Thornburg. And
yeah.
And when you first posed this, I was thinking, well, Ellis. Ellis is the worst.
Yeah,
but
he's on the list too.
Thornburg puts Holly and John at more risk than they're already in by barging into their home.
He threatens the nanny and he puts the kids on TV. That's terrible. Terrible right there.
And again, he just, continues on from his 1985 role in Ghostbusters as, a man with no dick and a punchable face.
Mr. Punchable. So I have him and Ellis. They were the first two I wrote down. Ellis too, just the coke habit and the whole show him the watch. It's a Rolex. Yeah. And then thinking he can negotiate with these guys, I have Dwayne Robinson down. I thought I was going to pick him. And then before I say my answer, a sneaky favorite here, Pete, is when he's talking about what's going on at the building on the phone, the idiot cop lady who doesn't believe him, even after there's a bunch of gunshots. It's like, come on.
You know what I love? Right. You know what I love about your list so far, Brad? You have not mentioned a terrorist.
No, and I don't have one on here either.
Right.
No, my answer is Agent Johnson, the white one. This guy has absolutely no redeeming qualities ever at any point. He is the biggest meathead, just motherfucker there is in this movie, and he gets what's coming to him at the end. The other guy is like kind of happy-go-lucky. The other Johnson, he's not so bad, but this guy is horrible.
Yeah, yeah. I felt bad for the helicopter pilot, but I was happy to see those two go down in flames.
Yeah, I did have Deputy Robinson.
There you go.
Oh. And for me, it wasn't even close. It's like just every little single little thing that you try to tell him, he's just like, "Oh, you're full of shit." And it's like he didn't want to. Yeah, he had no interest.
He could be a bartender
at all.
He could be right.
Yeah, yes. It's like you'd want to. In that situation, you would want to take all the information that you possibly can about what's going on inside. And here you have Al that's telling you, "Hey, man, I got a guy on the inside that I've got contact with them." It's like just immediately, like, "Yep, he could be a bartender. You don't know."
Well, and we talk about Atherton having a punchable face, but Gleason plays that character so well. Too. He plays the same guy.
I wanted to reach him by a street and strangle him.
He plays the same guy as the principal. He's the douchebag head coach in Johnny Be Good. He's plays that arrogant guy who's in charge, so well. So that's why I love seeing him again, this time around in this viewing, because he just does it so well.
All right. Did anybody have anybody else listed for this one?
Just
Carl's not great.
The other one.
Yeah, Carl's probably about the worst of the terrorists. What'd you say, Pete?
I had Harry Ellis as the other one.
Yeah.
As my other choice, but we've talked about him already.
All right. The sixth question of Die Hard is, what is your favorite scene? And this one was kind of hard, actually, because, I love the whole movie, and it just flows together so well. So I'm going first, and I only picked two, so I got to figure out which one to pick now, because I figured maybe you'd pick before me. I'm going with the vent. Yeah. I love the lines he says. You already said the line, Pete, but all the lines. But I love just the lighter. It's just the whole visual with the lighter when it first lights up, and just the way he's stuffed in there is fantastic. And then it leads into too. It's very tense when he's putting the gun up against it, and you're waiting for him, and you can see how nervous John is, and he's holding the gun over the vent, and so. It's funny, intense, all in one, and it's kind of this iconic scene, and so that's what I picked. Pete.
All right. I picked the first time that McClane meets Hans, and Hans is pretending to be somebody else. And
that was my other choice right there.
It's just like with Al. It's like you forget that these guys don't know each other and don't recognize each other, and then it's like they start going through the dialogue. Oh, he's pretending to be somebody else. And trying to pretend to be one of the hostages, And but then it's like there's debate I found on the internet. Did John recognize him right away
I think
and was
pretty much
playing
right away.
along?
Yeah.
And like, or did he not figure it out, but he unloaded the gun before giving it to him because he didn't trust him?
No,
and which was, of course, a smart move to do.
If he didn't know it right away, he knew it within seconds after Hans talked, and he gives him the gun.
That's what I think. This guy has the most recognizable voice in the world.
Half the time you don't even think he's trying to do an accent, and half the time you think he is, and it's really hard to figure out what he's doing. But that was my other choice, and he definitely knows it's him, and that's why he takes the bullets out of the gun. He's
right.
John is smart. That's the thing. We know that he knows what's going on.
The other scene I had written down was when he's walking on glass in bare feet. More near the end of the movie. What's good about that is it's set up. The whole fact that he is barefoot is set up from the very first scene when he's on the plane, and the guy tells him, to clench his toes, take his feet off, or take his shoes off and socks.
Make fists with your feet
and clench your feet. And so he's doing that in the office when he's waiting for Holly.
It is. That's such a great touch to the movie that flows through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's
and then that comes up later.
Such a
of course,
throwaway
glass everywhere.
It's a throwaway conversation and comment until
shoot the glass.
So my favorite scene. I'm a big. I don't want to spoiler alert here on a 1988 movie, but this is a heist movie at its core.
It is.
And
thieves.
So I love the beginning scene with that crew coming into the
trucks.
Yep, it's just clockwork. Like the truck's coming down the road, and right before they get to the turn, the car comes in, with the other guys in it, and then the truck pulls down, and they, take out the first guard, and Theo, gets into the computer room and starts, locking down the building and everything. Of course, what I love is once he's got everything done, he pulls the one cord, and then just a roundhouse kick to the mainframe will, shut that down. I thought that was a nice touch as well. But I thought just that, precision with this group, showing, kind of setting them up as, trying to show how militant and serious and planned out they are, I think is just a great setup for the show.
I think that's a great choice. I would almost consider changing my pick to that.
Yep.
Okay. The 7th question of Die Hard and Christmas is, what is the funniest moment? So this is a hard action movie with all kinds of great action and dying and killing, but it's funny, and it kind of created, it's probably not the first one, but it really helped to create the whole action comedy genre, and that we don't have to be so serious all the time. So, Gifford, what's your funniest moment?
My favorite moment, the one that I really got a chuckle at, is at the end of the movie when Argyle, quiet as a mouse in a massive stretch limousine, is able to sneak up on Theo in the ambulance, ram the ambulance, and then he just runs up and punches him in the face, which completely incapacitates Theo for the rest of the movie. He's out. He's done. Put him in a body bag. It's just and then he's so happy with himself after he does that. It's just great.
That's a good one. I am going to go back to one we said earlier. I love the whole scene where it starts right. He kills the first terrorist, and then he's going to put him down the elevator. But before he does, he sees the Santa, and there's the smirk. John gives the smile like, "Oh, I got something planned for this." And so the smile itself is great. But then when it comes down and they see him in the chair, and then Hans, and the way he delivers the line, "Now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho." I love that. It's so funny, but serious. I mean, it's serious. They're taking it. It's a big deal to those guys, but it's funny and really well done. And the little smile by John is what really sells it. Mm-hmm. I got a couple others, but Pete, what's yours?
You've already ruined it for me because mine was the the "Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?" line.
Oh, that one.
When he's calling to the dispatch officer, and they have no time for him either. It's like, who are these people? Nobody has any time for what's going on in this terrorist building that apparently 911 doesn't know already about. The dispatch officers don't already know about. But
Well, and then Al too. It's like, okay, I walked into the lobby. It's a 40-story building. It seems clear here. Like, like there couldn't be anything going on in this giant massive building.
Oh, to hell with this. That's all he says, and then walks out. Yeah.
My other two that I had down were Holly when she punches the news guy on air. Yeah. That's fantastic. You feel good, but it's also funny. And then there was one I don't think I've ever noticed. There's one of the cops on his way in when they're going to enter the building and they're going to just all get blown away because Robinson's an idiot. He gets clipped by a thorn and he goes, ow. I'm like, well, I didn't even catch that before. And the Asian terrorist eating the Mars bar. Those are my other funny moments that I picked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoyed when they finally cracked the vault and the music "Ode to Joy" plays as the door opens. I just get such a chuckle because it's a Christmas movie.
So we'll get back to that. The music aspects.
Right. Music. Yeah. Yes. And it's just it's elation, and this is what they've come here for, and it's just absolutely I get a good chuckle out of that.
Any other funny moments, Pete?
No, I just had the one written down that you already ruined.
Sorry. I think it works for both.
It's
actually
fine.
I have that line for another category yet too. So it works in so many ways. Yet? So I don't have it yet. So the funniest moment was that one. Now the eighth question is, what is the most intense moment? Because there's plenty of intense moments. What'd you pick, Gif? No, Pete.
I went.
I don't even know where we are anymore.
Takagi and Hans.
You can go.
That was the first one I wrote down.
That scene, this man is in a lot of danger, and whether or not Takagi knows the information that Hans is trying to get or not, it just builds to the eventual murder of Takagi. So that to me was a pretty tense one.
That's a good one. Pete, what was yours?
I had the final showdown between McLean and Hans towards the end, where they're both standing. It turns out, of course, he's got the gun taped to his back, but that there's like a full minute where they're just both standing there laughing together.
Right.
And Huey Lewis to laugh too.
Yeah, Huey Lewis.
right. Yes, they're all laughing. And then he pulls out the gun, of course. But that scene is what I had written down for this one. Also, it's actually a little bit later when looks like he's going to fall. McLean is going to fall off the building, and he's got that chair attached to him still with a fire hose. Or was it a chair?
It was the
big metal wind
the fire hose thing. Yeah. And
I have that one too, because as he's trying to unhook it, it's like, oh my god. So my choice, that was you named a couple ones I had. I also had John and Bill Clay when he gives him the gun, because you can see that's tense. I had the Ellis, Hans, and John when they're all on the radio together and everybody's listening to what's going on. That's a big one. But the one I did pick is similar to the vent, or not similar to the fire hose one. When he is hanging in the vent before he gets in the vent, and he's hanging, but the gun is barely overlapping, and you see the strap coming undone, and they keep showing him from above, and like there's nowhere to go. I mean, this also ties into one of my other picks later. There's nowhere for him to go. If he falls, it's over. So the unraveling of that strap, and then it does lead to Carl pushing on the vent, like I said, part of the same scene kind of. I thought that was one of the good ones.
Well, and fun fact here, in that sequence, the stunt double for McLean here missed the opening he was supposed to grab and fell to the one below it. So that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he falls pretty far.
Yeah. Because he goes for the one, misses it, and then grabs the second one. So that was not supposed to happen.
Speaking of that, number 9 I'm first here. So the most outlandish moment is number 9. And I have him catching that vent. Yeah. It's not possible. And even they show he like falls away from it. He's like out in the middle of the thing. And somehow all of a sudden he grabs a vent, this metal, which is going to be slippery. Like, I love the scene, but it's like, oh no, not gonna happen at all.
That's it. That's the exact moment that I have, and
Okay.
he's hanging on with his fingertips like to the first knuckle. There's no way, there's no possible way, and his entire falling body weight is held on by those four little fingertips, or I guess 8 fingertips, because obviously his thumbs are not involved. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. And even, by the way, even if you do make that jump and are hanging on, there's no freaking way you're going to be able to pull yourself up.
Yeah, that's the other part. How easy is it for him to pull himself up there again against that slippery, whatever,
into that tiny little hole that's no bigger than the size of his body, where he has to squeeze in there.
Right.
No way.
So there's a lot of outlandish moments. But we're gonna make it a bingo gif.
No, we are not. Mine is Carl's reemergence.
That's my second one.
This guy's been hanging by his neck for how long?
That was my other choice.
And then somehow he's able to get out of the building with a gun. And
how does he get out of the noose? I mean,
right. Exactly. He should be dead. I mean, he was hung.
Yeah, even if, let's say, he's alive, okay. But how does he get out? It's not, no way.
But you see him again when everybody comes
they run
off
by
the
him.
roof, and he's still there. I mean, so come on. So that was a scene which to me was reminiscent again of the end of the first Lethal Weapon movie, where they have Gary Busey's character, after he gets beat up, and then he grabs the one cop's gun and he's gonna shoot, and then the two guys end up shooting him. So that to me was the outlandish part, and they put it in there just, I think, as an afterthought,
it leads to
because
the great ending,
right? Because they need to have Al have his redemption.
So it's worth it, but it is outlandish.
It seems like it was kind of shoved in there after the fact, because he's about to get John's about to get yelled at by Dwayne. They're going to debrief him, and then this happens. Carl gets shot. Nobody else gets shot. There's a million people around, and then Argyle pulls up with the limo, and John and Holly hop in. And I mean, first off, that car is not roadworthy. There's a million cops around. Nobody tickets Argyle for having a vehicle. It probably shouldn't be on the highway. But
it's funny that we're doing the most outlandish moment, and nobody's even said jumping off the building tied to a fire hose.
No, that's not outlandish. That's awesomeness.
So that's great too. I had two more, and they're both more funny outlandish. The one I already said, the lady who doesn't believe him, even when the gunshots go off. But you're gonna like this one. Notre Dame and USC playing football on Christmas Eve. That doesn't happen. That's not real. No, it doesn't happen. It's not even a possibility.
That is awesome.
Even if it was a bowl game, they weren't playing on Christmas Eve in a bowl game, which they never did. So,
oh my God, that's great.
Okay. Number 10, the 10th question of Die Hard is, what is the best explosion? And you might think there's only one answer, and Gifford kind of said that, but
there's more than one.
There's plenty of explosions, so you might have different reasons for picking it. Pete, which one did you pick? Is it the big one?
I had the big one. Yeah. But I have to ask the question.
Meaning the roof, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Meaning the roof. But weren't all of the hostages? Did I miss something? Weren't all the hostages on the roof?
No, he had got him down.
He got
them down. Okay. So I was thinking at some point scores of people had to be killed here, but
it is great.
Maybe they got all of them down. Got it.
And what I love about that one is it is a great explosion. I mean, that's awesome. But there's a distant shot of the building from 2 miles away, and you see that is awesome.
Yep.
Yes. This isn't my choice, but that is awesome.
Well, let me go next. My choice is the same as Pete's. I think there's two possible answers for this question, but I think that scene, because it's in there along with him jumping off the roof, which is the first action sequence they shot for this movie was that scene. That's the climax of the action in this movie, in my opinion.
All right, so The roof is great, and I had that. I also had when they hit the tank twice with the bazooka, and then
Yep.
that's a big one. And it's not an explosion, but I also think just the shooting of the glass is just a huge it's exploding glass, and you're sitting there knowing John is he's fucked now. I love that too. My choice is the detonators down the elevator shaft.
That's the other.
That one is the sounds when that happens and the flashes.
Mm-hmm.
And then and when it's done, I remember who says what, but one of them goes, "Holy shit!" and another guy goes, "My God!" I mean, that is such a and you don't expect it quite then. And is John going to get in trouble? And what happens?
You don't expect it to be that big.
Yeah, I mean, love that explosion,
massive explosion,
and it's kind of a turning point in the movie. Almost, it's like you better pay attention that I'm in here and this is happening.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So. Okay, Gifford loves kill scenes. The 11th question is, what is the best kill in the movie? Gifford, you should go last on this one.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Mine is the obvious one. It's when Hans Gruber is falling off the roof. And I've got a fun fact about that. When they're filming it, they have, of course, the big stunt pillow, but it's actually Alan Rickman. It's not like a stunt man
he falls.
doing this. They're holding him. They've got him strapped in or whatever. And they said, okay. What they told him was, all right, on a count of 3, we're going to drop you. Okay. But then he told the guy running the set to say, drop him on 2. And so they didn't tell him. He dropped when he wasn't expecting it. And so he thought there was something wrong. So he was legitimately scared when they shot that reaction. Yes. So,
that's
and
awesome.
They do that a lot. I think you said they did that in one of the Friday the 13th movies, the one that we did last year, right?
They did.
Where it's like the kid was by the window.
Feldman.
And they're like, don't tell him that Jason's out here. So that they get a more natural.
Well, it's the same deal. They were doing a count of 1, 2, 3, but the actor playing Jason came in early in order to get the proper reaction. I believe he did that on his own. The guy playing Jason did that on his own in order to get the authentic response. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So dropping Hans is a great choice. My other favorite is I mentioned it earlier when he shoots the guy through the table after no more table. But then John has a great line too, because he tells him don't hesitate, and he shoots him. Thanks for the advice. So that's great. But my pick is, I think, the other obvious answer, which is Al. Al's my favorite character. I said I love his arc and the fact that he hasn't shot anybody, and he saves the day, even though it's completely ridiculous. And it's so dumb that Carl gets out. It pays off when Al shoots him, and when he drops the gun and you see his face behind it. That's just awesome. That's so awesome. Excellent. And then I love he's going to shoot somebody else, and John puts his hand over. Hey, I got this one. That's actually one of the funniest lines. We didn't say that one. That's so great. I got this one, Al.
Well, I think it's funny because my pick is what Pete said. Hans's death. So I'll go with my second one, which is funny because I think the best kill is when Carl gets killed the first time, because that's the 2 heavyweights, right? Those are the 2 fighters, and I love during the fight, John, you hear it a couple times from Ron, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you.
And as you could throw that into the outlandish too. They hit each other so bad. So, I mean, there's no way they could keep going and survive that. Right. They're both dead.
But you got to have it in a great action,
it is great
scene. So that's my favorite kill. Or what I thought was a kill is when he hangs Carl.
Yeah, you're disqualified.
So,
all right, and now the last question of Die Hard is the big question, and I'm not sure. Gifford might go a different way. Is this a Christmas movie or not? It's the stupidest debate, I think. I mean, who cares? You can have whatever you want, but it comes up every year. So, defend it. Christmas movie or not, and why? You want to go first, Giff?
I will go first. This is a Christmas movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you might go the other way.
And the reason it is a Christmas movies happen during Christmas. This movie's plot is dependent on the fact that this takes place on Christmas Eve. There's a Christmas party. The building otherwise is empty. It needs to happen on this day.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, in my mind, because it's plot dependent, the time dependent, it's a Christmas movie.
And I'm going to say a little more, but that's exactly one of my main points. But that's a lot of times what people say. Well, it just happens to happen on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, if you watch the movie, it's dependent on Christmas.
Lethal Weapon happened to happen around Christmas. That is not a Christmas movie.
Okay.
The plot is not dependent on it being Christmas. This one
Pete?
is.
Mm-hmm. Gremlins is another one where you wouldn't think of it as a Christmas movie, but the plot is dependent on being at Christmas, on it being Christmas. So, but I agree with you. What makes it a Christmas movie for me is that they do intertwine the music.
Yes.
Like we talked about.
Right.
Throughout in multiples, but even the rap song that they're listening to in the limo, Christmas in what is it called? Christmas in Holla. And so, yeah, like you said, it is set on Christmas Eve, which I will say too. And actually, the movie Santa Claus starts out the same way. It's a Christmas Eve party at the office that's obviously going late into the night. It's like, what office, even in the 80s, did they actually have work parties go late into the night on Christmas Eve?
I don't know. It's the yuppies, and it's a different time. And Ellis or somebody was talking about meeting later afterwards.
Right.
It's
and we had our gratuitous 80s movie boob shot in this one when two people are getting it on in an office.
Yeah.
All right. Absolutely. Well, you guys, so there's one good argument against it being a Christmas movie, and that is that it was released in the summer. And a Christmas movie should come out at Christmas. I mean, that's kind of the whole point. So if you look back in history, it came out in June, I think, or July. That is the only argument against it. I love that you brought up the music, Pete. There's music throughout. There's the Christmas and Hollis. There's the big Ode to Joy. It ends with Christmas music. Not only that, the paper flying out of the building, it's like snow. It's supposed to look like snow. And here it is. Here's the kicker. If you don't think this is a Christmas movie, then neither is Home Alone, because they are the exact same plot. One is a kid defending his house.
Slightly different.
Those guys are picking that house because it's Christmas Eve. They got the whole thing planned out. That's why it's happening. Outside of that, it's just an action movie with a kid. They are exactly the same thing in the overall plot. And so if everybody agrees Home Alone is a Christmas movie, which it is, then so is this. And by the way, I knew this a long time ago. I had that opinion many years ago, but I do want to give credit in case they're listening because I already brought them up. Surely You Can't Be Serious made that same argument debate on their show. And that's when I knew I loved those guys and loved that show. Because when I heard them say that, I'm like, we are kin. Because that is...
Those are your Southern brothers?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about how we didn't watch it every year before, but I think I already made the point on that we really didn't do that back then. And so once you started collecting movies that you want to watch every year, this became one of them, and it's a must watch.
Agreed.
You can have we had a Christmas party last year based on Die Hard. You can do that because it's all. I mean, it's perfect for that kind of thing.
That's right. Just bringing a machine gun with you.
Yeah, and some people do fake ones. Okay, we're going to close this out with a draft, a good old-fashioned draft of the top Christmas movies and TV shows. So we started with movies and we added TV, which was a good idea because I think we all actually needed the TV stuff to round it out.
This is true.
So anything that was it could be an episode of a TV show, it could be one of the TV specials that we all loved, or a movie, anything you watched on TV related to Christmas. Gifford is going to go first, Pete, and I'm stuck going last on this one, unfortunately.
Well, do you guys want to guess what I'm going to pick?
Christmas Vacation.
There it is. Off the board.
All right. I am going to go Die Hard.
All right.
Okay. I was wondering if I should take that because I didn't know if you would.
Pick there.
Well, I figured there's 3 top picks, and Die Hard and Christmas Vacation are in those 2.
You figure there's 3? I have 6.
Well, I mean, I think there's 3 for sure.
All right. Well, I mean, I got 4 here I could pick. I'm gonna go with Elf,
That's the third one.
Ah, that's the next one I was gonna get.
which I haven't watched yet this year. We got to get to that.
All right. Oh man, I'm gonna go with A Christmas Story.
Dang.
And by the way, just to throw it out, every movie we've named so far, we have an episode on.
Yes, we do.
So if you have been a newer listener, go in our back catalog and you can find all of them. Maybe we'll throw a couple out this month on a special occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Although if we do, it'll probably be before this ever airs. So, Pete,
I will take Home Alone.
damn it. All right, well then I'm gonna go. Okay, well no, I'm gonna step away from the movies here, and I'm gonna go with the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Very nice.
Few things are more meaningful to me than that 25 minutes.
Okay, so there are 3 movies that maybe 4 that I watch every year: Christmas Vacation, Elf, A Christmas Story, and another show that we covered in our podcast, and that is Love Actually.
We got that one too. I almost picked that. I went with the TV show thinking I might get more votes that way because I'm trying to beat you. Really hard to do with the third pick, though.
When you talk about, picking from your heart like you do, Love Actually is, that's my heart pick. Like, I love that movie. I have to have it on my list.
And it would be for me, too, but Charlie Brown is actually more of my heart.
More so for you, too, yeah.
That's right. Pete?
I'm going to go one that goes back to our childhoods that was the one that I always used to look forward to watching the most, and that was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Nice.
Some of it doesn't age well, I understand, but that's my pick.
Ah!
That's your childhood.
All right.
This is man's work.
Then, it's Christmas, and we're picking with our heart, so I'm picking Garfield.
Nice.
I'm not going to win this one with the third pick anyway.
Hey, I've won from the third pick quite a bit.
Oh, shut up. You're going to win just because you had Christmas Vacation. Most people are going to pick that.
And Daddy's going to kill Ralphie.
Daddy's going to kill Ralphie. Another shout out. So just this week, which will be like 2 weeks ago, totally 80s and 90s Recall, which I brought up many times. They did A Christmas Story. And so we did too. We like our show, but I loved their show. I laughed. It was great. Those guys know the movie really well. So I would throw that out as a Christmas listen as well.
All right. I am going to go with the old, again, from our childhood TV special, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He even took the roast beast.
Yeah. And so you are, just to clarify, picking the original 30-minute animated Boris Karloff.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, not the other movie. There's plenty other movies out there to pick from.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, the animated special, Christmas TV special.
All right. I'm going to go with Spirited. It is it's a newer one. I think it just came out last year. And we watched it again, and I love that movie. We just finished watching it last night, actually. And
I forgot about it, but I did really like it last year.
So we should have prefaced this. We're making these picks from our memory. So we didn't research anything. We just wrote down things that
I'm glad you brought that up. The requirement in making our list was we could not look up anything. So if I looked up, I would probably picked it anyway, but I would have seen that movie probably and added it to my list.
Yep. It's fresh on my mind because we just watched it this week.
Right.
So we watched, I think, half of it on Saturday, and we ran out of time because we all wanted to go to bed, and then we watched the second half last night.
All right, I'm going to make a trifecta.
Okay.
So I had Elf first. So there were basically 4 specials in the 80s for a couple of years that I loved. So Rudolph and Charlie Brown and Garfield. The other one was only on for a couple of years. But Pete, you know what I'm going to go here?
It's going to involve raisins. I have
The
feeling.
Claymation Christmas,
God.
which was a series of vignettes and songs, but the California Raisins were like the big star and one, that was the one people tuned in for. But it was a bunch of other stuff too. And it was really cool, like clay animation and good songs. And I have such good memories of watching that in the 80s.
That's what I was going to pick next. I have it on my list. So I didn't know if you'd remember it.
It was the last one I wrote down, I think.
Excellent.
Okay.
Gifford, what's your last pick?
Another half-hour TV special. I've talked about it a few times on this show. I absolutely love Prep and Landing.
Oh yeah, you have brought that
that's
up.
good. That's good.
I think there's a second one if anybody wants to take it, but the first one is so cute.
Pete?
All right. My last one is also another one that we've done on this show. It's in the same vein as my previous pick. I'm going with Scrooged.
Very good.
Oh yeah, that was in a Lost episode. People will not find that if they want to look it up.
Oh, I had forgotten that it was a Lost episode.
That was way back. You, me, and Dave.
I didn't even know you guys did that one.
Oh.
So someday maybe we'll
right.
do it again, but that is not available.
I apologize to the listener.
All right, so I have one pick left. I want to go with a movie, and I want to pick one of the class. I was thinking, I don't love, I'm not a big Wonderful Life guy, and those movies, but I do like the old and a newer version. Newer being from 1994, Miracle on 34th Street. I like that movie, and I liked both versions. I actually saw the new one in the movie theater back when it came out, and then I watched the old one too in black and white, and I love it. So it's a good last pick.
It is a very good, right. that is a classic.
My other choices here would have been The Holiday, which my wife and I just watched the other night. Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, and Jack Black.
Oh, okay.
Four Christmases is a pretty good one. It doesn't reach the.
I have that one on my list.
And I
John
think
Favreau in that movie is exactly like our friend Haken.
Yes,
the only other one I have down is another special from a few years ago, which I watched a lot when my kids were young, and that's when it came out, and that was Shrek: The Halls, which actually had Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy. It was really good. It was a really good one. I don't know if they ever play it anymore, but I watched it for 3, 4, 5 years in a row there with them, and it was really good.
Pete, you got any others?
I had two that we haven't mentioned. I actually did bring this one up earlier in the episode, The Santa Claus. We watched this. This is one that my wife really loves it, and the kids like it, and so it's on our Christmas rotation. And then Frosty the Snowman, the TV special.
I hate Frosty.
On my list.
I'm glad nobody picked that one.
I missed it. So just to reiterate, we didn't research. I don't have Frosty. I didn't have Home Alone on my list.
What?
Completely I didn't think of it.
Wow.
So I got a couple more on here. I've got the one with the holiday armadillo from the Friends episode.
Yes.
Also Ted Lasso's Christmas episode.
Yeah,
I like that episode.
I love
By the way, the holiday armadillo, the funniest part of that is where Chandler as Santa Claus just goes, "What?"
I should have added the Ted Lasso one to my list of choices too.
Yep. The Polar Express.
I hate that too. That and Frosty are just.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I've never seen the Polar Express
once or twice.
No, it's not worth it.
I have.
Yeah,
it's weird animation. It looks weird.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's too real. I've seen the animation, but I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched the movie.
It's not Tom Hanks's finest moment.
No. I watched one, I think it was last year. David Harbour is Santa Claus, and it's called Violent Night. It's kind of a dark comedy. Oh yeah, it's a good time.
Wow.
I am a fan of Bad Santa with Billy Bob.
I've only seen it once.
But that was a fun one. And then I had written it down just in case I needed it, and that was Reindeer Games.
Is that actually? It is a Christmas one, right?
It is a Christmas one. Yeah,
I saw that one time too.
Yeah, I saw it one time.
It's Ben Affleck and Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. I enjoyed 2 parts.
Comes out of a pool.
Yeah.
That's what I remember of the movie.
I enjoyed the right one and the left one.
God. And with that, Merry
yeah.
Christmas.
Hey,
But we're not. So, by the way, this is coming out in the middle of the month as a special. We got one more 98 episode coming back to you next week.
We do.
So don't forget. And then we're gonna probably we'll
All
talk
right.
about it on that episode. We're gonna take a little break probably, but
Yeah.
Something about Mary is coming up, and you don't want to miss that.
No, you don't.
I can't wait. Hey, Gifford, do you know who I love listening to for Christmas carols?
I'm guessing Preacher Row.
Preacher Row. They play the awesome Christmas carols.
They do.
I don't know if they do.
Christmas
but it's
carols.
still.
It's good. Yes. Well, Merry
Yeah, all right.
Christmas.
It's a good rap. Merry Christmas, everyone, or whatever you celebrate.
This is correct.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
We're all inclusive.
Standing on my own two feet, no one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last.